Now, as we're having the conversation on entrepreneurship, we're focusing, of course, on innovation and economic growth, empowering young entrepreneurs for a stronger economy. We cannot have this conversation without looking at the element of money. When you have a formal employment, we're talking about you employed by a company. The interesting dynamic there is that you work knowing that there's some money coming at the end of your work period. For entrepreneurs, it's the other way around. You have to first get the money, then you work. All the money facilitates the work that you are going to do. And that's a dynamic that we want to have a breakdown here as we continue the conversation with Mr. John Walgambe. We do have Brenda Nema on the table. We also do have Dr. Thaddeus Musoke on the table, as well as Linchi Sasira, bringing us into perspective. So we are going to talk about money. Actually, we were in a break and really everyone is saying, the grants are there, but they're given to the rich, or gamba no goose. When you go to the banks, they'll tell you, yes, we have it, but it has they've not yet deposited on that money, the program money. So you can use our own personal loans here that they can upscale your business. So all these are challenges that entrepreneurs are actually navigating. Government having heavily invested in wealth creation initiatives. The 2026-2027 budget speech saying government had invested close to 11 trillion Ugandan shillings directly, and this is into wealth creation initiatives targeting households, targeting farmers, youth, women and businesses. Yet businesses are still saying access to affordable finance is one of their biggest problems. So where is the disconnect? Mr. Musoke, where is the disconnect? Should government stop thinking primarily in terms of giving young people money, or would we get better results by putting more resources to the things that you earlier mentioned, that is empowering them to understand how their businesses run in different elements, succession, incubation, development services, technology, mentorship, market access, and things like that?
Currently, the government has invested heavily in Enterprise Uganda. And also there are some private companies which have instituted incubation hubs. Also NETA is in final stages of instituting our own incubation hub. But sometimes we try to partner with now Enterprise Uganda, like said, through collaboration. The main essence of entrepreneurship is supposed to be so creative. The moment you still have this challenge, can you find a possible partner? Can you strive? There is some telecommunication companies currently. I don't want to give them free time here, but they are totally doing some great work. When you try to interest yourself and you dig inside their operations, totally they are facilitating youth entrepreneurs. There are some financial institutions which are facilitating youth entrepreneurs. So what should be done? Does this youth entrepreneur whom you are facilitating, does he have enough knowledge of business operations, government policies? Like my comrade here said, how was he mentored into such an investment? Like personally, I was mentored into business by my mother because she used to be Muyirivi. So through that, I admired the way she could operate, and that's why currently I'm surviving in Kampala. So I think that it's not easy to go into business, but we need to make sure that such associations and government interventions, to a certain extent, they can facilitate the young youth entrepreneurs.
Allow me to follow up. Then should we say that government, instead of funding the entrepreneurs, should actually build an ecosystem that will help that entrepreneur succeed?
But also the youth need also some funding. The fact is that one time when I was here, I gave a scenario where I had to spend around, I think, 15 millions just accessing a loan. By the time I'd accessed that loan, it was almost a full year. and I was setting up a building. Unfortunately, by the time the money was released to my account, even some of the construction materials had got spoiled. So the fact is that there is a big challenge to access to finance. First of all, it's so costly, but even the bureaucracy. But also, the most big challenge is us, the entrepreneurs. Are we genuine? Can we meet our bank obligations? Or do we want to fraud the bank institution or these financial institutions? So that also there is a big challenge, because the risks which the banks go through. Yesterday, I was having several engagements with the banks, and they told us, you know, can you imagine that now someone intentionally can access that loan when you want to cheat these financial institutions? So we need to change the perception of entrepreneurs, that you cannot survive currently without such
Let me keep this question
partners.
with Mr. Walgembe. The example that Mr. Msoke has used is quite interesting, that as he wanted to put up a building, he set everything else up, and yet what will facilitate the project to move from point A to Z was the money. And the money came 1 year later. That gap, we need that, I don't know if it's knowledge gap or information gap. I would want you to speak into it. But as you're coming in to speak into it, let me have Elena's the case study here. Elaine, if there was 10 million Ugandan shillings, would you want it on your account, or would you want access to a mentor? Would you want a guaranteed market? Or would you want the affordable credit that comes less than a year? Or would it be technology? So that 10 million versus these other elements to help you as an entrepreneur, what would you pick?
Honestly, that's a trick question. But I don't think capital in itself works in isolation. I think, like I mentioned earlier, it's a whole ecosystem. Young people do have the ideas, we're not lacking the ideas, but we are lacking a dynamic where we are able to have the ideas, the incubation, the right mentorship, and the right establishment of those different ideas. Because I personally do not believe that every business needs funding. I do not believe that every idea deserves to be funded. But we have a burden as the entrepreneurs who are already in the business to be able to identify which business is worth funding, and then be able to avail it with all the other nitty-gritties that can be able to sustain the business from micro to small and possibly to a larger enterprise.
Okay, all right. Mr. Walgembe, to the question that I posed to you earlier.
Okay, firstly, we must understand that there's an obsession in this country. Entrepreneurs are obsessed with access to finance. Everyone thinks that it's a magical bullet. And unfortunately, government has also fallen in the same trap of dishing out money to spur entrepreneurship. Money can be a useful tool for the prepared. For the unprepared, it just exacerbates their problem. So I would say that if you're a startup entrepreneur, you bootstrap. Right? Don't ask us, don't ask the bank, don't ask government and so on to invest in an idea where you don't have any skin in the game. And all statistics show that entrepreneurs start using their own money. Not just, of course, in the Western world where you have venture capitalists, if you have a very interesting idea, some people choose to invest in it. I know NSSF has tried with the High Innovator program, but unfortunately in this market that is not readily available. Then on the existing entrepreneurs like Dr. Thaddeus here, the reason they don't access financing is both on the supply and the demand side. Demand side, some of them are not prepared in the sense that they cannot demonstrate cash flows. You're investing in a business, but you cannot show, will you have enough money to service the loan? So the banks.
And perhaps that's a gap in itself that has been failed to be realized as a necessary tool. Because you have skilled this young person, and then you tell them, now you need funding. And that element is left out for this young person to practice.
No, you see, an entrepreneur takes risks. This is the point. We don't want to babysit entrepreneurs that to give you the idea, we skill you, then government gives you money. You will not succeed. You know, we must tell people the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Entrepreneurship is risk-taking. The business can work, it may fail. But you can't say that you're going to use public resources to risk. No. We must, we can't just use access to finance as an excuse. Everyone you meet, access to finance. You can't manage your business, access to finance. You mismanage employees, access to finance. You divert resources from business. No, access to finance is a problem, yes, but it is not a silver bullet, as I indicated. We have fundamental issues like the interest rate. You can't borrow at 28, 30%. It's suicidal. This is a genuine issue that we do need to resolve if we are to support. Then we also have a heavy reliance on debt. You know, in advanced markets, you have diversity of finance. I talked about venture capital. We also have deep and functional capital markets. See, so you can easily access equity, which is not the case here. You also have an environment that encourages what we call private equity actors. Now, everyone wants to start their own business, but ideally, if John, as a busy person, I want to invest in a hotel, I don't need to start my own. There has to be a marketplace where I find a good hotel that's running but needs a financial injection, and I inject it. But unfortunately, that marketplace here in our context is not there.
So I guess it ties into what Mr. Musoke was saying, the mindset of individualism when people are wanting to start up businesses versus the available partnerships or joint ventures that could really bring these ideas into reality.
But Ugandans are not trustworthy.
They're not?
Trustworthy.
So that's why people are going individual.
Yes, they are not. This is a problem. Even with banks, people borrow with the intention of defaulting. You see, I borrow against a family house. I discuss with my wife and say, after I get the loan, you go to court and say, I didn't have consent. Things like that. Yeah, so that's also another issue.
So isn't that going to be keeping us at a particular level of entrepreneurship and does not allow us to scale up to compete globally?
Most of my entities, they are through partnership. I started the school when I was still at Makerere University first year, and I thought I could start it alone. So later I had to run to my brothers. But now it has survived for almost 20 years, and it's one of the biggest schools in Uganda. Currently I've invested in 2 bakeries, in 2 even medical centers, but through partnerships. So we need to come out with serious examples perhaps, to Ugandans.
Perhaps the...
But it's your brother's doctor.
But also I have other partners. I have also other partners.
Perhaps the doctrine of partnership and joint ventures has not been amplified enough as a window of opportunity that young people can use to bring their ideas to life.
Is it...
to you.
I think, come again?
I'm talking about the doctrine of partnerships. Perhaps it's not amplified enough for Lynn and friends to understand the importance or how it can get them to where they want to get faster and quicker.
No. Currently, with the entrepreneurship syllabus, we are encouraging every school to have an entrepreneurship club. So through this, these students can raise small capital from pocket money. And then they start up an entrepreneurship club. So what are we guiding schools? That also the school can top up. So as students are leaving these institutions, they wind up that club. And after, we are trying to encourage that, don't wind up. Can you continue operating with your colleagues, even outside school? So with the new curriculum, it's totally encouraging this. And I'm sure the government is on the right course.
All right. Brenda, I'm going to put you on the spot, something that you shared with us during the break, and your experience with one of the grants that had been availed on the market and how it did not turn out in your favor. So if you were given responsibility for one of these, or even that very same government intervention itself, specifically to help young businesses scale up, what would you kill? What would you redesign? What would you introduce? So that the women and those groups that you registered this time round could actually see fruit of these grants and opportunities.
Yeah, it is very sad that in our country we lack honesty. It is very wrong to lead someone on when you know very well there is nothing. It is very bad to tell youth, go to the bank and get money. Youth money is in centenary when you've already given it out to other people. Uganda, we have a long way to go because I've applied for grants before in international spaces and I've benefited before from more than 2 without them seeing my face, but believing what I've written or what I've presented to them. In Uganda, you fill forms, you fill papers. We have the Bureaucracy project in Uganda supposed to give youth equipment. People fill papers. We have gender is full of these grants and schemes, and the government puts money. It is really painful to make people fill papers. Come, we visit you, they circulate you here, when they know they're not going to give you that money. Every financial year ends, they budget that they give people money. They use our forms as accountability that they gave us those things when they did not. So we have a long way with policy. I don't know, we need God in this country, and we need people who are honest. And me, where it dies for me is where someone makes you move around to something you're entitled to. This is capital that should be free. This is a grant for women, but they're giving it to people who are opening up banks. You know, capital is not everything for a business. Capital starts a business, but customers sustain it. Scalability also comes from innovation and whatever you're doing. Capital is not everything, but we need financial capital. It drives a business. We need physical capital. We need networks. For example, you're starting a food business, but how many people in your circle eat food? Of course, everyone eats food. But how many of your people, like 10 people around you, will support you? You're doing a clothes business for kids. How many of your friends have kids? How many of your sisters have kids? So we need capital is more than money. It is your network. It is your physical strength. It is your skills. You cannot say you're starting a cooking business when you can't even boil water. It is a failed switch. So for me, I would prefer that if we have opportunities that can give young people capital or financial help in any way, they should be real. Yeah, because these people wire money to your account. I received money and everyone was like, check the balance again, check the balance again. It actually came. I just had a 2-minute interview with these people. But in Uganda, my God, you fill forms, the bank asks you for what you do not have. You get your friends, you join your assets, you join your heads. So I would advise young entrepreneurs to go with the idea first. Build your idea, find out what solution you're offering, go into, make research. Because even you're going to use your little money that you have and lose it. Business is not for the faint-hearted. I've gone through that. You have to get used to it. You have to build a thick skin. But start with your idea. All ideas are good, and not everyone is cut out for employment. We need to be honest with young people. You're going to be employed.
And not everyone is cut out for entrepreneurship.
Yes. You're going to be employed. Some will employ others, or you'll be someone's employee. We need to come to the field with that attitude. Otherwise, people's hearts are going to be broken. Business is not a resort that you run to. I'm disappointed. I have no job, government, so let me go to business. No. And it's not a side hustle. It is a full-time job. As a mother and an entrepreneur, it is a full-time job. My business is a baby to me. I have to give it time. I have to concentrate. I have to dot everything to the dot. So it is even more straining than being an employee. When I was in the private sector, I had time. I could go on a weekend.
You can postpone the assignment.
I could do my things.
You have sick leave.
But now my Saturdays, I'm at people's functions providing food. Those times I would be the guest eating. But now I am the one over. I wear the napkins and all. So it is a sacrifice. It is something you must love. And it is something that should get you up at 6 in the morning. Yeah. If it is not, then you're wasting your time and your little money. You'd rather wait for a job. There are people who are to be employed and others who are to employ others. So you need to know what kind of person you are. Lynchy. Incubation is also important so that people can discover themselves and their potential, such that we avoid the financial risks and damages people are getting.
Lynchy, there's been an opportunity that has been realized out of this discussion that going solo as an entrepreneur breaks your back. than going as a group or collected minds towards the same idea and the same goal. What are your 2 cents on that?
I do concur with what my neighbor did say about partnerships, but again, someone mentioned something about that. I think it was you who mentioned how accessible is it, or the information about partnerships to the youth or to the young generation. There is a gap, like I say, a knowledge gap between the people that are actually in the spaces that we want to be in, and then we, the youth that are actually here. So we are not able to understand probably what benefits do we have with probably getting into these partnerships to a larger extent, and probably the issue of the youth. We have a challenge where we see people who have made money for particular businesses, and then we say we can also do the same thing. Yet it's not the same idea. Youth need to actually understand that entrepreneurship is not just about creating business plans on paper and then handing in your CVs. You need to understand whatever comes along with it. Are you able to assess the business? Are you able to partner with people? Are you able to work and see that you're going to get profit in the long run? Or can you take on these economies of scale that come along with the businesses that you're going to take on? And like you mentioned, not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur. Some are meant to be employees, some are meant to be the job creators.
Well, you can go to your ChatGTP and get a very simple test to find out for yourself if you're an employee type or an entrepreneur type, to save everyone the hassle and the pain and the cost at the end of the day. Mr. Olgembe, another element to this whole conversation of entrepreneurship and empowering young people through this channel is the element of formalization. And of course, on the side of government, they are pushing for formalization. The back end of it is that they're going to get out of it, taxation and many other things. And so they want businesses to formalize. But imagine a small business owner, a trader making a modest daily sale. The government says, register, 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 keep records, pay taxes, and comply with regulations if you're going to be a beneficiary to some of these government opportunities. The trader is asking, what do I get in return? And we've already had an experience on the table. There could be an opportunity, but the cost of Brenda getting access to that grant was a painful story for her than an opportunity for her. So what tangible benefits should a small business receive in exchange for being compliant, in exchange for formalization?
First of all, I'll start by saying that businesses should be allowed to grow organically. It's like asking a child in middle class that please, you know, we have this exam in P3, you must do the exam in P3. Businesses evolve, you know, so businesses should be allowed to evolve organically without external impositions. Of course, it's a good thing that businesses formalize, but that should be balanced against the cost of compliance. For some businesses, if you formalize too early, that cost, that burden, and without appreciating what is required of you, you may find that that also puts you in problems. So I think there's need for awareness on the costs and benefits of formalization, and must also be clear on what formalization is. I feel that people are not very clear. People think for you to be formal, you must be registered with NSSF, all those. And for someone who is roasting maize, that's not a very good kind of benchmark. Maybe a trading license would suffice for them. So, and of course these days with a trading license comes the TIN number and so on. So we must create a certain level of balance, but also government must come up with clear benefits for small businesses through financing, through access to government grants, through access to business development support. Unfortunately, that linkage is not very clear. I sometimes feel that the very informal businesses receive more support than those that are formal and that are paying tax. So this conversation needs to go beyond simply saying formalize so that you pay us taxes. It's a very selfish kind of thing. We must say formalize because there are these benefits for you, but also there are these benefits for the country because the tax you paid does A, B, C, D. So I think there's need for broadening the discussion around formalization
Okay.
to look not just at the benefits for government, but also the costs and benefits for the entrepreneur.
All right. So formalization is a way of scaling up any business or any entrepreneurship idea at whatever level that would be at formalization. And so we need to advocate for formalization. I believe it's the rightful thing to do. Because if you don't, if Brenda hadn't formalized here, she wouldn't be having so much business that is taking up her week. She would, but it would. What would? How much money would she be getting if she was informal?
Priscilla, we don't want to parrot. You know, for us, we are practical business people. There's no data to show that formal businesses are getting more business than informal, or they are big or whatever. The point that I'm making is that formalize at the right stage. See, if you're 1 month old and you just a company because URA want you to file returns even if you're not making any money, and for some businesses that capacity does not exist.
Okay.
Let's be honest. Let's not just tell people do this, do this. No, let's tell people there's presumptive tax. That presumptive tax is meant to care for people who are not keeping books because they are too small. Let's not just tell them formalize, go and register a company. For some people, a sole proprietorship will do well. Then you transition into a company at the right time.
Okay.
Yeah, we shouldn't be like those guys who overpromise. Go to the bank and pick money. Formalize.
All right.
Don't say formalize.
We are
then
coming
there's
to the
a lot
close
of
of this
business.
discussion, and so as of course the Kickstarter focusing on empowering young entrepreneurs for a stronger economy, and focusing on innovation, entrepreneurship, and economic transformation. And so I would like to have your closing remarks in that regard. Let me start with Lindsay. I know you wanted to contribute something, and then you can do your closing remarks.
Okay. I just want to supplement on the conversation that we've just had. I wanted to say that I think that formalization should not sound like a punishment to the entrepreneurs. It should rather be made to look like an opportunity to the entrepreneurs. So that is the burden that government and probably the private sector has to take up and then become an incentive to the entrepreneurs. Then also he talked about something about policy. The young entrepreneurs, yes, we do need capital, but then come up with a policy that is more favorable for the young entrepreneurs to be able to join these initiatives. For example, a start and grow sort of policy, because the tax or the money that the people that are already in business for like 20 years get is not the same as the revenue that the starting business is going to actually be getting. So if you can come up with a policy of identifying the different tax rates that you can charge the different enterprises, then probably we could see the trajectory of Uganda's economy actually grow better.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Musoke.
Thank you very much. Mainly, I want to thank the team. I think they have made good presentations for the entrepreneur, and also mainly my remarks may be that to the entrepreneurs, the environment is not so easy currently. You find that most of the sectors have been affected. Whenever you discuss with the entrepreneurs, there are arguments about the tax rates. They are not favorable. Then also, you saw there are some, now currently there are some obstacles. We are dealing with the rice traders. Also, they have so many issues that you find that some government officials now want to take over the rice certification, and also suffocating the real dealers. There are so many challenges there which we are trying to sort out with the Minister of Trade.
Okay.
And, but the challenge is we can come up with serious advocacy and collaborations so that we can force some government policies to change.
Thank you, Mr. Musoke. Brenda?
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to congratulate the youth for celebrating the International Youth Day on the 12th, and also to encourage them that every idea is valid. If it makes sense to you, just make it make business sense. But Uganda does not need more survival businesses. What we need is an economy that supports small businesses and ideas to become big businesses and opportunities.
Okay, all right, Mr. Mugembe.
I mean, to the young people there, we won't stay young forever. We don't want to, because you know there are some people who presume that they'll say, you find a 50-year-old saying, we young people, we young people. See, so you must do the right thing at the right time. When you're young, take risks. Don't wait for people to come and serve you things on a silver platter. Don't have a sense of entitlement because you're a young person. You know, the world, you have to show cause, you know, and be able to compete fairly. For the SMEs, we wish you great success. Focus on your business and contribute to the economy as usual. Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the end of this discussion. Thank you so much for having been with us.